It's not a question of clear signal. It's not a question of quality sounds. It's never a question of an engaging, intelligent discourse.
Democratizing beyond democracy. Very quickly, your thoughts. Like I said, the absolute person. Final word.
In fact, it's never been a question about who stands out unique in best radio programming.
So raise your glasses, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, this toast goes to Smooth 98.1.
And it can never be a question about who we are. We are Smooth 98.1.
Okay. About to go live. Mics up. Studio silence, please. And a very good morning to you, Lagos, and thank you very much for staying with us. You're listening to the smoothest dial on radio. This is Smooth 98.1, and we're in time for Lagos Talks 981, where we have wonderful conversations. Usually, it's about one of the stories treated earlier instead of freshly pressed 981. But for now, for today, it's a special day. So today's Lagos Talks special, Lagos Talks 981 special, is dedicated to asking governorship candidates, deputy governorship candidate for under the camp of PDP, Haleemat Ohu Yemisi Busari, who's present here with us as a special guest, asking her those questions that are burning in your heart regarding their plan for Lagos State this year, 2019, and moving forward. Welcome, Mrs. Busari.
Thank you, Valentine. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so very much for being part of the show today and being gracing us with your presence. So you can reach us, Lagos. You can ask your questions. You can send messages. You can make any inquiry by calling this number first.
You can reach out to us on 0144 Once again, that's 0144 Also, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp. The number to do that is 0809 And also, you can reach out to us on Twitter. We're live at the moment. We're at Smooth 91 FM. Please use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981 to get your messages across.
Remember, for WhatsApp, it's just messages. Please do not call that number. The only number to call is 0144899981. WhatsApp is for messages, and that number is 0809 So, Mrs. Haleemat Ohu Yemisi Busari, she's running for deputy governor under the PDP camp for Lagos State, and she's the running mate to Jimmy Agbaje. She was the director for First Bank. You were once?
First Bank Sierra Leone.
First Bank Sierra Leone, not Nigeria.
No, not Nigeria.
And you've held a very strong leadership roles over the years. And people say they trust you a lot, and they find it very comforting to find a woman or a lady running in this capacity. Now, what's been the reaction so far to your emergence as the deputy governorship candidate?
Thank you very much, Valentine. Let me start by saying that being a woman, that naturally makes me, number one, a wife, and then a mother. And being a wife and a mother confers certain responsibilities on you, so you have to be warm, you have to be accommodating, you have to be inclusive, because in a family, you can't prefer one child over the other, so you have to have all those natural skills, and of course you have to look after the big baby who is the husband in the home, and so that is what you are as a woman. And so being brought onto this ticket, I think it's a positive, because these are part of the skills that I'll bring to bear on governance. And I think that also being a professional woman, is something that I also bring to bear, and that has also impacted my acceptance, because my colleagues out there, my women folk out there, feel, oh, this is one of us, and they're rooting for me. So generally, the reaction to my nomination has been warm, and the acceptance has been humbling, actually, and overwhelming.
So what's paramount on your mind when it comes to this election? Some people say, political aspirations come with a plan. Some other people say, oh, because you get into politics, there's always this mindset of, oh, you're going to get you're going into this position just to get power and certain level of control. But what is on your mind regarding this aspiration?
Okay, let me start by saying that the first thing on my mind is to win. I haven't come into this race not to win. And so both my principal and I are doing everything to make sure that we win the election. Now, when you ask me what is paramount on my mind, a couple of things agitate me, and one of such is education. Education is the bedrock of society. Education is what impacts everything, and that is something that I'm passionate about. Education, knowledge economy, driving everything with education, making sure that right from the fundamentals, the rudimentary, primary schools and all, we get the education right, the curriculum, the teachers, the infrastructure. This is so critical because that is what impacts the quality of people that you churn out. And it's the quality of people that you have in a society that impacts the economy and the environment. So for me, it is education, it is education, it is education.
Now that you've mentioned education, this leads up to our next question. My question is, research has shown that public schools, or rather private schools in Lagos State, possibly in Nigeria, are doing better than the public schools. So what would you do? What would be your plans to improve the public education system in Lagos State?
Okay, so let me tell you, Coyote, we have 1,066 schools in Lagos, both primary and secondary, roughly. And we have 5 technical schools in Lagos. Now, let me start with the technical schools, which would impact vocational education. What you find is that the teeming population we have in Lagos right now, a lot of them are past taking them back into secondary schools or saying you want to let them into the universities. So there is that huge gap of people who have had some sort of education in primary, but who are not educated enough to impact society. Okay. So you want to immediately impact them. So you want to immediately try and see if you can bring on short courses, 3 months, 6 months, that will impact this category of people, which you thereby giving them skills by which they can then impact themselves and their lives. Okay. Now, when we come back to the combination of the primary and the secondary schools, what I would like to do within the first 6 months of coming into government, come May, inshallah, is that you immediately unleash everything on the schools. My thinking and that of my principal is that a huge spend of our budget is going to be on education. Well over 40% is what we're looking at. And what you're going to do with that is to immediately move in, bring in infrastructure, look at the curriculum, look at the teachers, look at what the children are being taught. IT is big. You have to bring in IT from the very beginning for these children. Otherwise, they're not able to compete internationally. So you need to do that immediately. And then in doing this, you're building roads that lead to the school. You're building health centers in that area. The local governments are going to be involved because it's got to be an inclusive government. So in each area, the local government is going to be involved. You're going to build roads. You're going to provide water. You're going to provide power for the schools. So you're setting up little communities. And what you're also doing is that in working with this infrastructure development and ramping up, you're also making sure that you bring to bear transparency, because you're going to be awarding contracts, there are going to be bids, all of that is going to be going on. And one thing I'm also passionate about is ensuring that in all of this ramping up and jump-starting the economy, you also have women and the youth. So our plan is at least 10% of all of this work that will be going on will be allocated to women and the youth. Okay. So that we're also sure that that particular demographic is taken care of in all of this.
All right, Lagos, if you just joined us, this is Lagos Talks 981, a special with Mrs. Haleemat Busari. She's the deputy governorship candidate under the camp of PDP, running for Lagos State's governorship elections and deputy governorship elections as well in a few days' time. Well, next month is very close. But sending your questions through WhatsApp to 0809 014440981. I said that precisely because if somebody's running for the governor, you're also running for deputy governor, so it goes hand in glove.
Thank you, Valentine.
Thank you very much. Your calls go to 0144489 and 981. But we'll come right back to that after this break.
A station.
We're talking quality. In line with the talk on education.
How am I doing?
Very well. We'll ask you questions. We'll just touch on the hijab issue.
Okay.
Yes, because it's been recurring.
Topic that's been going on.
I'm comfortable with it. I'm a Muslim.
Yeah. So we'll touch on the hijab issue, the controversy surrounding it. Some people feel it's much ado about nothing. Some others feel, we shouldn't set a precedent by talking about hijab, but that would lead to other people from different climes and different religious sects to call for their own rights. And some other people, the more rationally thinking people, this is off the records, would say, yeah, that's fine. Some other more rationally thinking people would say, so if you are clamoring for this, why don't you go to court?
I think the issues are really important.
Yes, it is.
It is. That's why I said I'm comfortable with talking about it. It is in court. There's been some pronouncements. I mean, the Muslim community has been allowed. There's been a specification around the hijab so that it doesn't look, I'm trying to find the right word now before I go on. So it's not unwieldy and it doesn't create, please help me with the word now. And people must still look like students and they must still look, the word is not corporate because they're not workers, but they must still look decent. Sorry?
Decent.
They must still look decent with the hijab.
Presentable.
Yes, so part of what has been done is there's been specifications as to length, and all of that. That doesn't make the children look uncomfortable or unacceptable amongst their peers. Yes.
Of course, coming through. We're going back in 10 seconds. Studio's live mics are up. It is 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. Lagos, you're listening to Lagos Talks 981. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Heidi Baker.
And Valentine Ohu.
And today for a special, we have Mrs. Haleemat Yemisi Busari. She's the deputy governorship candidate on the camp of PDP running for Lagos State 2019 elections. Now, we have been asking questions surrounding education just before the break, and you touched on some very important aspects of education. You said really we need to pay attention to what the children are being taught and the knowledge that's been imparted on them. And I like that you touched on those issues because most recently in the news, it happened, the uproar started again in 2017, where the Federal C lady was, denied the right to being called to bar just because of the hijab issue that she was encountering. And then that case was decided by members on the bench, and they decided to grant her that right in 2018. Now this is almost resurfacing. So different quarters have different opinions regarding this. Some say, it's much ado about nothing, that we're overflogging this issue because it's not supposed to be given that much focus. Some others say, we shouldn't set a bad precedence, so to speak. I'm quoting, comments from different quarters. Some say, if you set this precedent right now, why should you stop other people from other religious sects from asking for this? And some other people are saying, well, go to court if you feel that hard pressed to say, what's your stance on this?
Valentine, thank you very much again for that question. I think my reaction to that will be that we should stay with the facts. And by that I mean that in Lagos State, because we're talking about education in Lagos State now, and so we're talking about school children in Lagos State.
Yes.
And basically where the position is at now is that the Muslim community have been in court with Lagos State, and there's been a ruling that has allowed hijabs in schools. And what you find, even though that ruling is also being contested, but the ruling that stands now is that children are allowed hijabs in school. And what you have found is that the Lagos State has issued a circular saying that school children are allowed hijabs in school. In fact, they've gone to the details of describing the length, the size and all of the hijabs that the children are allowed to wear, so that we're sure that we still keep the children looking decent and they don't in any way feel uncomfortable with it or intimidate other students in school who are not wearing the hijab. So that's the position. That is the fact, and that is where we are.
Right.
And as a government, we will continue to carry on with that until there is anything that changes that position.
All right. Some people feel like there's this issue of police brutality, and it seems like the present administration, pardon me, the present administration has been paying lip service to the issue, or maybe seeming to just turn a blind eye to that. Police brutality started with an uproar around SARS and the operations in Lagos State. Most recently, a celebrity was affected in the person of Gideon Okeke just a few weeks ago. Was brutalized around Lekki, the Lekki Junction, Lekki 1 access as well. And he raised this issue once again. People were talking about it. What is the government doing about this? What's your opinion regarding the treatment of the behavioral antics of the police in Lagos State?
Let me state that I'm a mother. And naturally, as a mother, I will be concerned about things like that. I want to be sure that my husband is out there and that he's safe. I want to be sure that my children are out there and that they're safe. I'm bothered about the fact that my relatives are out there and they need to be safe. And bringing it to the state, I want to be sure that Lagosians are out there and they're safe. So for me, being a woman, brutality is something that I don't believe in, and I don't see why in a mega city like Lagos we should have this kind of things going on. But let me state that something that we will do when we come into government is to make sure that we engage the stakeholders. So it's going to be a case of, let's sit down and let's understand what the issues are. And let's try and understand and come up with solutions to all of this. Because you can only solve a problem when you understand the reason behind the problem, hearing from all stakeholders. Another thing that we are advocating is the issue of state police. Because you will know that you would recall that police matters are centralized. However, when you have your own state police that understand the peculiar needs of your ecosystem, that understands what happens in your ecosystem, then they're able to relate better to happenings within that ecosystem.
What level of influence do you have in deciding who gets redeployed as the commissioner of police?
Like I said, that is done at the national level, which is part of why we're advocating that we have a state police that you can have control over.
All right, let's go to the phone lines now. 0144899981.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your name and what's your location?
Welcome. Please go ahead.
Yes, Alhaji Adamu. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Alhaji. Thank you very much, Alhaji.
I wanted to find out actually what are your plans, especially for the growth of the ocean. These are looking at what you are now advocating for the police. We've known what had happened before 2005 when we had, especially the non-Indians, free the house out, for example, and not the issues of during that time, of course, we had a lot of casualties. So, based off the OPC, and I think the issue of at Yaraba and other locations in Lagos. And we don't want that kind of thing. So, the sort of concern actually having you saying something now for it. These are those, and I want to believe those are all the people that family like this.
All right.
What are your but it's not true. These are just family issues. And we have people especially how over the so those three issues are not
All right.
and I wanted to find out
we have to give time for other callers to ask. Thank you very much.
Alaji, thank you very much for those questions. I'll start with the primary education question. Alaji, one thing that I want Lagosians to understand is that Jimmy Agbaje and I are about Lagosians. Jimmy Agbaje and I respect Lagosians. Jimmy Agbaje and I want to serve Lagosians. And there is a difference between indigenes and Lagosians. Everybody who lives in Lagos, who contributes to the Commonwealth of Lagos, who contributes to activities and happenings in Lagos, is a Lagosian, Alaji. So when you talk about primary education for Lagosians, the education that we're talking about and what we will put in place for Lagosians will not discriminate against religion, will not discriminate against tribe. All Lagosians will have access, equal rights to primary schools in Lagos. And this is what we're saying. So primary schools will be located in all areas. And what we're saying is that we will involve the local government in running this education economy that we're talking about. Because wherever a primary school is located, we would make sure that there is a road there. We would make sure that there is a health center there to look after our children. We will make sure that they have water. We would make sure that they have power. And this is what we're talking about. Now, on the issue of state police,
yes.
Again, I come to my definition of who a Lagosian is. A Lagosian is not an indigene of Lagos. It is more than that. A Lagosian is everybody who lives in Lagos. So the point we're making is that if we do have a state police for Lagos State, all stakeholders will be brought into the conversation, and this will reflect in the kind of recruitment that will form part of the force. And why we're saying this is that if you have a security apparatus that is localized to an ecosystem, that understands that ecosystem, that understands where the trouble spots are, then you're likely to be more effective in your handling of security. On the issue of my not being in public service, I'd like to quickly just speak on that, like Valentine said, so that we can take more questions.
Okay.
What we're talking about here is governance. And really, indeed, what is governance? Governance is about managing stakeholders. Governance is about negotiation. Governance is about influencing. These are the things that I have done in the last 30 years that I have worked in the corporate world. And all these things I would bring to bear when I come into office.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Busari. You're a lawyer.
Yes, I am,
And
Valentine.
there's an issue of accountability. Most citizens, Lagosians, like you call us, you call every one of us actually, think that the government is not transparent enough with their accounts and accountability in general. How are you different from what's been in existence so far?
I think that the first thing that Jimmy Agbaje and I would love to do is to ensure that the Freedom of Information Act is actually implemented.
Okay.
Because once we, I mean, there's the bill already, and once we do that, what that does is that it is mandatory for you to make certain information public. That will be the starting point, because then you have a leg to stand on. But what we intend to do is to make sure that everything we do is transparent, even in our bidding process. And part of what we want to bring to bear is the blockchain bidding process, which is transparent, which is technology driven, which will be driven down to all the ministries. So whatever it is you want to do, you must have a process through which you bid, through which contractors are awarded contracts, which is transparent to everybody. And once you have the FOI in place, it means that you have to declare what you're spending on what, the cost of projects. So you don't have a situation where for a particular project, you have 3 different figures running around and you don't know which one to believe. Different bodies that give data give different figures and you're wondering, okay, so which one is the correct one? So that's how we will deal with this.
All right, thank you very much. Quick message here in from IOX on WhatsApp. Remember, you can send in yours on 0801 444 0809 444 0981. IOX says, never have I heard a deputy governorship candidate sound so articulate with creative ideas. Wish a debate would be done for the deputy governorship candidates. It's time we have someone with good governance understanding in Lagos State government. And he says, to the question, with your extensive experience in corporate governance, how are you able to apply good governance values to the governorship or governance in Lagos State? We'll come back to the answer to that question after the break, all right? Lagos, you're listening to Lagos Talks 981. It's part of Smooth Breakfast with Kylie Baker.
And Valentine.
Good morning.
You're on Nigeria's #1 station.
How am I doing?
How you doing, miss?
Can I have that question again?
Yes, so it says,
So what's his question again?
After
I have to thank him for the
Copious.
love, but
it says, how are
What's
you?
that WhatsApp number again?
0809 444 0981.
okay, so what's the question?
It says, with your extensive experience in the corporate governance, how are you able to apply that good governance value in Lagos?
Sure, was that 3809?
His name is Ayo.
Yes, IOX.
Ayo.
0809 444 0981.
You got new shoes? Yes, I love them. They're sleek, fashionable, and work for every occasion. Ooh, they're so hot. I'm
Okay.
so jealous. But babe, it's January.
Alright.
Don't you need to save? Oh, I am saving. Thanks to Julia's Carrot Sale, I get to pay less and save more. Yes, from the 14th to 31st of January 2019, get mega flash sales with over 50% off the internet.
Good morning, everyone.
Everyone.
Good morning.
That's good here. He's the head of
Nice to meet you.
production. Yeah.
I was listening to you. Good morning.
So what
It's
do
a
you
honor.
think?
But what you've been saying,
Yes.
I've been following. Yes, I've been following, really. Nice one.
We're back
Yes.
in 15 seconds.
But I was going to ask a question. The toll gate.
Yes,
What's gonna be done about
we'll
the
come to
toll
that.
gate?
Studio. All right, mics are up. Studio is live. You can join in the line of questions here on Lagos Talks 981. It's a special with Mrs. Busari. Mrs. Busari is the PDP Deputy Governorship candidate for Lagos State 2019, where we are expecting to go to the polls in a few weeks. And Lagos, remember, you can call us with your questions on 0144899181. And you're advised to please keep your questions down to 1 minute or 30 seconds at the least, so we can give other people a chance to ask questions. All right, let's take this one from Fabia from Lekki.
It says here, I'm very excited to have caught Mrs. Busari on radio today. The team of Agbaje and Busari are my preferred candidates. However, my husband and I have been discussing how we weren't hearing anything from the PDP camp though. I agree with you that cracking and investing in education is a key policy to get right. Healthcare, roads and the environment is another. I hope to hear more from you and Mr. Agbaje in the coming weeks. We need to see your posters and hear more from you on the campaign trail. I wish you good luck.
All right. So before you answer that, let's take you back to the first question we took before the break on WhatsApp from IOX. So talking about corporate governance
Yes.
and your outline your experience.
Yes.
in Lagos.
Thank you very much, IOX. I'm actually blushing right here, but you can't see me. Thank you very much for the compliments. Now on the issue of corporate governance, I think that I need to put something on the table. And that's the fact that when you go into governance, what's your reason for going into governance? If you go into governance to serve, I think that that's already the right step in putting in place the building blocks for governance. And I think that in this situation, this ticket is going into governance to serve. We want to serve the people of Lagos because we believe we have the capability, because we respect the people of Lagos, and we think we have what to offer. Now, to come back to my experience in corporate governance, now basically, one of the first things that one will do is to quickly do a review of the governance structures that you have in the respective apparatus and the respective levels of governance. I mean, take for example, we're supposed to have a local government cadre in Lagos State. That has been non-existent. So the first thing will be to bring back an efficient and effective local government level. You cannot centralize governance. That way, you don't achieve much. You slow down the process of decision making. So you have to give power at different levels. And you have a criteria of what needs to come up to the central level for approvals once you have set in your criteria and your KPIs. I think what is one other thing we would need to quickly do once we get into government is to look at the framework, of all the respective ministries. So you review, you look at the governance structure. If you have too many layers, you want to shrink it and flatten it so that, again, you don't create opportunities where there is cloud. Once things are flattened and you have a slim structure that gives approvals to things, there is more accountability. However, when you create unnecessary bottlenecks is when you also create issues, which also doesn't help accountability. Because really, what is corporate governance? Corporate governance is about accountability. And that really is governance. So it is corporate governance, but then you can bring it into governance at the state level. So what am I saying? One of the things you will quickly do is to look at the structure and ask yourself, is this working? If it's not working, what do we need to bring in? Whatever is working, you don't need to junk. I'm not somebody who believes in break it if it's and fix it if it's not broken. But what we're saying is that review it, be sure that these systems will deliver. If they're not going to deliver, then introduce systems that will deliver. Keep it as flat, as simple as possible, and you will see that things will work.
Let's see who this is on our phone lines. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us in Lagos Talks 91. What is your name and where are you calling from, please? All right, Sociable, please keep your questions down to 30 seconds if you can.
Sociable? We're struggling to hear what you're saying.
It's breaking off. All right, please, can you call us back? Move locations. Maybe that would help the network coverage. Well, let's go back to the phone lines now.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. What is your name, please? Welcome, Tunji. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Tunji. I think that's a very interesting question. My starting point will be that when I was going to take on this nomination, I had a very interesting conversation with my principal. And I asked him this exact question that you're asking me, that if what you're looking for is a spare tire, then I'm not interested.
You use those words?
That's what I said to him.
Spare tire.
Yes, I said because that's the perception out there.
Okay.
But if what you're looking for is a spare tire, then you have to look for somebody else. I'm not interested. And he said to me, this is going to be a partnership. This is going to be an inclusive government. This is going to be a government that we will sit down, we will think together, and we would agree how to implement. And trust me, this is how we have run the campaign. But to come back to what do I bring to the table, I think that this ticket, the Agbaje Busari ticket, is a strong ticket. And why is it a strong ticket? Because both of us are people who have had decades of experience in actually running things and making it work. What have I done in the past? I've been responsible for raising funds internationally, locally, telecom sector, hospitality. This is part of what has formed a bulk of the experience I have gathered and the things I have done in the role that I had been before. I've been a negotiator, and trust me, in government you need to have sharp negotiating skills, because you're always putting together deals for the government, and if you are not able to negotiate, you find that you leave a lot of money on the table. And who loses? Your government and the taxpayers, because it is taxpayers' money that government is spending. So I've done negotiation. Influencing, that is what I've done in the last 30 years. I've been responsible for government relationships in my company. So I know how to get people to my side. I know how to get people to do what I want for me. And these are part of the things you need to do in government. You need to be able to get in there and engage people. Let me share a joke with you. Well, it's not a joke, it's a story.
Okay.
I once went into a meeting and we were trying to negotiate for something on behalf of my company. I was the only woman in the room. Everybody else was a man. And we started negotiations. And after about 20-30 minutes, I realized we were almost deadlocking. Why? Because of the egos. The men had their egos up there and nobody was going to back down. And you know what? Me, I don't have ego and I don't have shame. I'm not contesting anything with anybody. I just wanted the deal struck. So I came in and I said, you know what, guys? Let's take a break. Let's do a 5-minute bathroom break. And that was what we did. And then when we came back, I brought the female, thing to the table. And before we knew what was happening, I had calmed all the nerves. The egos had gone back to where they were before they came up. And we were able to wrap up the deal and achieve something. So you can imagine if I wasn't there that day, both sides would have walked away from the deal. Both parties would have lost and lost time. Eventually, yes, you would have come back.
Yes.
But something that you could have sorted out there and then, because of male egos, we were going to lose it.
Thank you very much. You've spoken very well about your experience in corporate governance and extensively referred to your experience the defunct Zane Telecoms, as well as your experience. We know presently you're the Secretary and Head of Legal Services at Honeywell. And you, in some sense, you're a businesswoman, right? And then your principal is a businessman. Most people feel like he's been absent in the scheme of things. And the perception is you should have money, right, to run your campaigns. But then there's a question here on WhatsApp from Ginger. Ginger says, hello, Ma, why does it look like Jimmy Agbaje and PDP want to make APC return unopposed? I ask this because all of Lagos is filled with campaign ads by the opposition and almost none of yours. Are you short of funds?
Let me answer that question by saying that, Ginger, I'm sure you know that elections are not won by posters. Elections are won by the caliber of the people contesting and what they bring to the table. That's number one. We definitely want to win these elections, and we're doing everything that we need to do to win these elections. Let me also state that, and I don't want to dwell on that, we've had a running battle with state apparatus as to posters being taken down, but all that we've all taken ourselves to the Commissioner of Police. Like I said, I don't want to dwell on that, but that's part of what has been responsible for our lack of poster presence, because we put them up and they bring them down. We put them up and they bring them down. And don't forget that we're running our campaign on goodwill of people like you. And so we're doing the best, but we're not going to deploy resources where the resources will not work for us. Why should I continue to put out posters when my posters are being taken out on a daily basis? So we're using other ways of, campaigning and making sure that we get our message out there. Trust me, Ginger, it is not our intention to not campaign effectively for these elections, and we do intend to win.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Busari. Mrs. Haleemat Ohu Yemisi Busari. She's the deputy governorship candidate for PDP ahead of the 2019 Lagos governorship elections really that are coming up. And we know you have your PVCs, but the questions are coming in on WhatsApp 0809444091 for your calls.
It's 0144899981.
When we do come right back after the break, we'll be taking a series of calls and a series of messages, and then you would answer the questions in time. Lagos, keep it here at Smooth 98.1.
How long more?
Questions, huh? Yeah.
Valentine, how long more? 9:41.
Yes.
That's not 40 minutes. You said 40 minutes.
We
40
started at
minutes.
9.
As radio breaks, as ads. The fact that in the ad breaks,
We're done in 10 minutes.
or in less than 10 minutes.
We'll take the traffic, we'll touch on traffic. We'll run through some questions, some messages on WhatsApp, just in the silent points, so I can summarize the answers.
iInvest app and enjoy as much as 11 to 12% interest on your investment. Simply download the iInvest app at www.i-invest.com. You will be amazed at how much your money can grow.
Traffic, truck.
Your grades keep getting better and better. I know. And you keep getting faster and faster on the running track. Yep. What's your secret? It's no secret. It's my mom. Your mom? Huh? I give Albert Nunu every day because it's bursting with smart growth vitamins, minerals, and nutrition he needs for a stronger body and sharp mind. Nunu milk. Grow every day. Available in stores near you.
It's your smooth drive home. Just keep it on your radio.
Smooth Drive Home on
You're right in 10 seconds.
98.1 brings the biggest tunes and information your way. Love music. Love life.
Studios Live. You're listening to Lagos Talks 981. Is a special with Mrs. Busari, the deputy governorship candidate under PDP, head of 2019 governorship elections in Lagos. We're taking your questions on 0144899981, and we're looking at areas of accountability and good governance. Now, a few messages here on Twitter. This one's from Somto Chukwu. He says, I love your response to Alhaji Adamu's question on the tribalism and separation of tribes in Lagos. And from the Igbo tribe, there's a bad treatment for other tribes living in Lagos. What will you do to reduce this abuse in Lagos? I believe you've answered that question. We will take more messages here on WhatsApp. Emma from Akoka says, in Nigerian politics, it's usually the debacle of deputies, meaning that most innovative ideas by the running mates are mostly swallowed by the number one. You're very cerebral. How do you ensure our thoughts are implemented? We will note that question as well. Let's take others. OBJ from Aja says, good morning, Mrs. Busari. Now, I hear education is a high priority. That's your priority. What happens to health of Lagosians, particularly in the area of pipe-borne water, as there is no alternative to clean water anywhere? It's healthy citizens that aspire for quality education. So what's your government going to do to put in place pipe-borne water in the whole of Lagos State? And next question here from Korede says, thank you for making sound solutions to the issues of police brutality, equal inclusion of all Lagosians, and implementation of corporate governance. However, we are aware of massive corruption in the local government. How will you tackle this? That's the one you addressed shortly before the break. And then next one from OBJ Naja. Okay, we've already taken this one, but we'll go to the phone lines. Let's take a few calls.
Hello, good morning. Okay, we lost that one. Let's see who this is. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. What is your name, please, and where are you calling from? All right, Lucky, please go ahead. Okay, Lucky.
Okay.
Lucky, we're running out of time. Please, what's your question?
Make your question in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you
All right,
very
Lucky,
much,
thank
Lucky.
you so much. Appreciate
Thank
that.
you, Lucky.
Thank
Alright.
you.
Okay, real quick, before we wrap up though, we have another question on the state of the roads. Motorists and commuters have generally been asking questions concerning the state of the roads and also the traffic situation and also the toll along the
Lekki access, yes.
access in general. So what are your thoughts about that in general?
Okay, so let me start with traffic. Traffic is something, I mean, I was born in Lagos and I grew up in Lagos. I've lived in Lagos all of my life, so for me, it's something that I'm very passionate about. And it's also important for me to state here that I grew up in Surulere, and some of us then used to congregate at the then Leventis on Akirili. You know, there was the Leventis and there was a suya spot there. And all of us would ride on our chopper bicycles, you know, and we would meet there and we would have fun. These are the fond memories I have of growing up in Lagos. Unfortunately, because of the traffic situation and the insecurity, some of these things that children cannot enjoy. So let me start from there. And when you then go down to the issue of going to work, you spend 4 hours going to work, you spend 4 hours coming back from work. By the time you get home, the children are asleep. For those of us who are mothers, the husbands have gone to bed. For those of us who are men, our wives have gone to bed. So what kind of families are we raising? So the traffic thing is something that has a multiplier effect. It impacts the home, the quality of morality that we impart into our children, because we've all become absent parents, you know. So coming back to the real issue itself, what are we going to do about it? Of course, there are some quick fixes, which include making sure that all the craters that are on the road are immediately fixed. You also have to look at the issue of the traffic lights, the settings of the traffic lights, the agencies that control traffic. So LASMA and all of them, we would engage all of these stakeholders and make sure that we bring a short-term, quick win solution that at least ensures smooth flow of traffic. Then we will then go into the medium-term and long-term solutions. Now, some of these medium-term and long-term solutions will be to look at the waterways. We're surrounded by water in Lagos. What are we doing about bringing in sizable ferries that can move people from one location to the other? What are we doing about building multi-tiered roads that will eventually impact free flow of movement? These are the kind of things that we're looking at, you know, on our ticket. Now, when you talk about the issue of toll
And trucks.
and okay, let me go back to the issue of trucks before I go to toll. On the issue of trucks, we're talking about Apapa and the Surulere axis. Again, it's something that saddens me. Like I said, I grew up in Surulere. The Surulere I grew up on is not the Surulere we have now, which stretches all the way into Apapa. So one of the first things we're going to do is to ensure that we engage the stakeholders. And the immediate solution will be to find paths for these trucks. They're staying on the bridge. It's dangerous. Those bridges are not built to carry dead weight. So we're actually endangering our lives if we don't come in with quick wins. So those will be the first things that one would need to do. Look at parts, look at how you can get them off there and repair the roads in Apapa, because that's part of what is causing the issue that we have.
Right.
Of course, the long-term things will then be looking at the ports, how we can decentralize all of this, and you know, there's so many things that need to be done. On the issue of toll,
Thank you.
we are going to take up the toll at the Lekki, the Lagos-Lekki road, the first one.
Okay.
And why are we going to do that? We believe that
The one closest to Aja?
no.
Or this first
The first
one?
one, yeah, that's the one that is effective right now.
Yes.
And what we're saying is that for you to be able to toll a road, you have to have a viable alternative. For as long as we haven't put in place a viable alternative, then we will not toll. That would be my reaction on that.
Thank you very much for that. You just answered Ayok's question, and unfortunately, we've come to the end of this interview. And somebody asked, actually, several people asked this question and said that you speak so eloquently, you seem to have great ideas, fantastic ideas. Why are you running under this party? Because it seems to be championed by people who have not been present so far in governance and being very vocal about governance issues and checkmating the government, the present administration. Why PDP? This is the question. So somebody was asking this question, I'll take it again. So people are asking that you speak so eloquently, you seem to have great ideas, your mind seems to be in the right place, that why are you running under the party that seems to be silent in the scheme of things? Ever since this present administration has been in power, there's been not a complete silence, but it seems very quiet in checkmating and keeping them accountable. Then why did you pick this party?
Thank you very much, Valentine. Let me start by saying that the opportunity came on this party. That's the starting point.
Okay.
However, I believe in the objectives and the plans of the platform upon which I'm running, and that is why I accepted it in the first place. And I believe that the ticket can actually impact governance in Lagos, because we have the ideas, we have our head in the right place, we have our mind in the right place. Because trust me, governance is also, you must be capable, but you must also have the right level of morality to support whatever it is you're trying to do. And like I said, if you're in governance for service, then the first hurdle is already crossed, because everything you see is the big picture, is how can I impact, How can I solve problems for Lagosians? How can I make Lagosians' lives more livable, which is one of the tripod upon which we stand. So it's livability, it's the economic, it's the future. Now, what are we saying when we talk about economy? Making doing business in Lagos more easy. Creating an enabling environment that allows Lagos to thrive. The future, what infrastructures are we putting in place for the future? Our children, my children, your children. What are we building? What are we putting in place? And that is what we are concerned about.
Thank you very much. Special thanks to you, Mrs. Haleemat Ohu, Yemisi Busari. Thank you for coming through, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Valentine.
And special thanks to everyone who called in and sent in messages. We'll be back again, Smooth Breakfast, tomorrow.
Yes, bright and early. It's at 6 a.m. Don't forget, guys.
And catch Coyote Baker on Twitter.
It's at Coyote Baker with a double R.
And my Twitter handle is at Valentine_Ohu, on Instagram at Valentine Ohu. Good morning.
So can I ask you, what is it that you would not change about Lagos State?
Yes, you can.
What is it that I would not change about Lagos?
Very well.
It's never a question.
I will not change the fact that we already have building blocks into what will create a better education for our children. So we already have schools. I'm not going to swap schools. I'm going to make them better. I'm going to look at the curriculum. I'm going to look at what they're being taught. I'm going to confirm that the education that they're getting is what prepares them for the future, for the 21st century children that they actually are.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
People love
People
you.
love you.
Our marketing head, she's not around, but she wanted to get your contact